So, when you hear the name Hercules, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably the smiling, super strong hero from the movies, right? But what if I told you the real story, the original Greek myth, is actually this brutal tale of madness, murder, and just unimaginable tragedy? Let's peel back those layers and find the tormented soul at the heart of this legend.
And this quote, man, it just nails it. For Hercules, the path to becoming a god wasn't some kind of victory lap. It was a brutal, agonizing climb, paved with more suffering and loss than any one person should ever have to bear. His story is a really chilling reminder that true greatness is often forged in the most unimaginable pain.
Okay, so let's just lay it all out there. On one side, you've got the pop culture icon, the celebrated champion we all think we know. But on the other, that's the real deal. A volatile, haunted man, just absolutely crushed by the weight of his own power and his own horrific actions. Forget the strong man. This is the story of a tragic hero.
So where did all this go so wrong? Well, the tragedy of Hercules' life was literally there from the very, very beginning. I mean, from the moment he was conceived.
You see, Hercules was a demigod. He was the son of Zeus, the king of the gods, and a mortal queen named Alcmene. Now, you'd think being the son of Zeus would be a pretty sweet deal, right? But this made him a living, breathing symbol of his father's cheating. And for Zeus's wife, the powerful and famously jealous goddess Hera, that was an insult she would never, ever forgive.
Hera's hatred wasn't just some passing anger. It was immediate, and it was murderous. Her first move, she sent 2 giant venomous snakes to kill him in his crib. But what happens next is just mind-blowing. The baby doesn't even cry. He just wakes up, grabs the snakes, and crushes them, one in each tiny hand. It was the world's first sign that while the threat against him was divine, his power might be something else entirely.
You know, for a while there, it looked like things might actually turn out okay for him. Hercules grew up to be a respected warrior, a hero, a protector. But Hera, she was just waiting, biding her time for the moment he was happiest to strike, leading to the single most horrific event of his life, the one that would change everything.
I mean, he actually found something most heroes in these myths only dream of. Peace. A normal life. He married a princess, Megara, and they had children. For just a little while, the great warrior's life wasn't about monsters or glory. It was just about being a husband and a father.
And this is where it gets truly terrifying. See, Hera didn't send another monster. No, her attack this time was way more insidious. She attacked him from the inside. She inflicted him with this temporary but total madness, a divinely induced psychosis that literally twisted his reality into an absolute nightmare. In this delusion, he looked at his wife and children, and he didn't see family. He saw enemies, threats to be destroyed, and with his superhuman strength, he slaughtered every single one of them. When he finally came to, he was standing there, covered in the blood of his own family. You have to understand, in Greek culture, killing your own kin was one of the worst crimes you could possibly commit.
And this brings us right to the heart of his entire story. I mean, what do you do with that? On one hand, he was a victim of a cruel goddess. But on the other, his hands were the ones that did the deed. Absolutely overwhelmed with guilt and grief, Hercules set out to find some way, any way, to atone for a sin that felt totally unforgivable.
And that is what brings us to the famous 12 labors. But it's so important to see them for what they really are. These weren't grand adventures for glory. This was a grueling sentence, a punishment designed to try and purify a soul stained by an impossible crime.
Completely broken, he goes to the oracle at Delphi begging for guidance. But the oracle, who's secretly being manipulated by Hera, gives him a terrible sentence. He has to serve his cowardly cousin, King Eurystheus, for 12 years. And this king, who is terrified of Hercules, came up with a list of tasks designed specifically to kill him.
Just try to wrap your head around that. 12 years of constant, life-threatening trials. From fighting the Nemean lion, whose hide couldn't be pierced by weapons, all the way to literally going into the underworld to drag out its 3-headed guard dog, Cerberus. This wasn't a quest. It was a long, painful marathon to redemption. And here's the thing. You couldn't just punch your way through all these labors. Take the Lernaean Hydra, this multi-headed serpent with lethal venom. Every time Hercules would smash one of its heads, 2 more would just grow right back. He was losing, until he realized he needed to think, not just fight. He had his nephew come in with a torch and burn the neck stumps after each blow, so new heads couldn't grow. And after he defeated it, he dipped his arrows in its toxic blood,
a very smart move that would tragically come back to haunt him.
So, after a brutal 12 years, Hercules is finally done. He's purified, he's atoned. But if you think this is where he gets his happily ever after, well, you haven't been paying attention. The tragedy that defined his life was far from over. In fact, the weapon of his own agonizing death was created during his quest for atonement.
Years go by, he's traveling with his new wife, Deianira, and a centaur named Nessus tries to abduct and assault her. Hercules does what he does best. He whips out an arrow and takes the guy down. But it's one of those arrows, one of the ones still tipped with the Hydra's lethal poison.
But Nessus, with his dying breath, is clever. He hatches this twisted final act of revenge. He tells Deianira to take his shirt, soaked in his blood that's now mixed with the Hydra's venom, and he claims it's a powerful love charm. He tells her it'll keep Hercules faithful forever. And Deianira, she tragically believes him. And this whole terrible incident, it actually gives us a phrase we still use today, the shirt of Nessus. It's come to mean any kind of fatal gift, a source of misfortune that once you accept it, you can never escape from.
So, fast forward a few more years. Deianira gets paranoid. She starts thinking Hercules is falling for another woman, and she remembers the centaur's promise. In this act born out of fear and jealousy, not true evil, she sends Hercules the tunic, hoping it'll bring him back to her.
And this is just the most horrific irony of the whole story. Hercules is standing before a sacrificial fire, and the heat from the flames, it activates the ancient poison on the shirt. The venom from his own arrow, from a victory decades ago, delivered by the hand of his own desperate wife, begins to literally melt the flesh from his bones.
His life started with an attempt on his life, and it's ending in this unimaginable agony. But even here, in his final moments, Hercules finds a way to take back control of his own destiny, leading to one last, incredible transformation. The pain is just off the charts, but the poison isn't killing him fast enough, so what does he do? He has a massive funeral pyre built for himself. He climbs right on top and orders it to be lit, choosing to end his suffering on his own terms. And right there, on that pyre, something incredible happens. This is his apotheosis, his transformation into a god. As the flames rage, they burn away everything mortal in him, everything he got from his human mother. And what was left, his pure divine essence from his father Zeus, was finally set free. From the ashes of his own fire, Hercules ascends to Mount Olympus. He's finally welcomed home as a true god. And get this, in the ultimate, most stunning twist, he finally reconciles with Hera, his tormentor for his entire life. He even marries her daughter, Hebe, the goddess of youth. Which leaves us with one last thing to think about. For a man whose entire life was just one long sequence of pain and suffering, a constant struggle against a cruel fate, was finally becoming a god the ultimate reward for all that perseverance? Or was it just a final welcome release from the agony of being Hercules?